They kicked her out, deciding she wasn't suitable for their circle, but they had no idea they would soon be working for her. Mistakes based on prejudice are too costly. Subscribe so you don't miss new stories and write in the comments. Where are you watching us from? Selena adjusted the collar of her designer coat as she stepped out of her sleek black car, her heels clicking softly against the cobblestones outside the most exclusive bridal boutique in the city. The storefront gleamed with elegance. Polished windows showcased luxurious gowns draped over mannequins, and gold lettering above the entrance proudly displayed the boutique's name. To most people, this shop was the pinnacle of luxury, catering only to the wealthiest, a temple of exclusivity. But for Selena, it was simply another step in preparing for one of the most meaningful days of her life. From a modest background, Selena had risen through sheer intelligence and perseverance. She had made her first successful investment at 25 and, by her early 30s, had built an empire. Now, she was recognized as one of the top investors in the country, managing portfolios and startups across industries. Though she embraced her success, Selena remained grounded, never flaunting her wealth. She preferred her achievements to speak for themselves. This wedding was personal. It symbolized not just love, but everything she had built: security, success, and the future she envisioned with her partner. For a day like this, she needed the perfect dress, something that embodied not only beauty, but the journey that brought her here. And this boutique, known for having the most stunning bridal gowns in the city, seemed like the ideal place to find it. Selena stepped confidently through the boutique's grand entrance, her heart fluttering with anticipation. The air inside smelled of fresh flowers and expensive perfume. The walls were lined with delicate lace, silk, and satin, each gown more intricate than the last. It was a place designed to make a woman feel like royalty. But as Selena's eyes scanned the room, her presence did not evoke the warm, welcoming response she had imagined. A middle-aged white woman with a sharp bob haircut and an expression that bordered on disdain approached from behind a wooden counter. Her name tag read Elaine, but her demeanor suggested she was anything but friendly. Elaine's cold blue eyes briefly sized Selena up, and within seconds the judgment was made. This woman did not belong here. Selena greeted her with a polite smile. "Good afternoon. I'm looking for a wedding dress. I'd love to see what you have in your latest collection." Elaine's thin lips barely moved. "Are you sure you're in the right place?" The question hung in the air, heavy with meaning. Selena's smile faltered for a moment, but she quickly recovered. She had encountered subtle racism and judgment before. Years of navigating boardrooms where she was often the only black woman had given her thick skin, but it still stung. "Yes, I am," Selena replied smoothly, maintaining her poise. "I've heard wonderful things about your boutique and thought it might have what I'm looking for." Elaine gave her a once-over, the corners of her mouth tightening. "Our gowns are made exclusively for a particular clientele," she said with a slight sneer. "Very high-end. I'm not sure we'll have anything that suits you." The insult was as clear as crystal, wrapped in passive-aggressive civility. Selena's eyes darkened, though her expression remained calm. "I'm sure I'll find something," she said coolly. "I'd like to take a look." Elaine folded her arms, her gaze hardening. "I don't think that will be necessary. This boutique is for select clients, those who understand the level of sophistication required to shop here. I think you might find something more suitable at one of the department stores downtown." The words, though delivered with a thin veneer of politeness, were an outright dismissal. Selina felt the heat rise in her chest, a familiar blend of anger and disbelief. She wasn't used to being treated this way. Not anymore. She could have responded then and there, asserting her status, revealing that she could buy out the entire boutique if she wished. But Selina had learned long ago that arguing with people like Elaine only fueled their ignorance. Instead, she gave the woman a long, measured look. "I see," she murmured, more to herself than to Elaine. Without another word, she turned on her heel and walked out of the boutique, her steps steady and deliberate, though inside she felt the weight of frustration pressing down on her. Out on the street, the cool breeze brushed against Selina's face, soothing some of the anger bubbling beneath the surface. She gripped the strap of her handbag tightly, her mind replaying the encounter in vivid detail. It wasn't the first time she had been judged for her appearance, but this moment felt different, more personal. She could have easily put Elaine in her place, revealed her wealth and status in an instant. But Selina didn't want to win respect through intimidation or boasting. That wasn't her way. Instead, she resolved to find another boutique. There were plenty of others in the city, and she had no doubt she could find a dress that matched her vision elsewhere. Yet, as she walked back to her car, a thought nagged at her. There was something about that gown she had glimpsed in the window, its sleek, timeless silhouette, the way the light danced on its fabric. It was exactly what she had imagined herself wearing on her wedding day. But not in that boutique, Selina told herself. She didn't need to put up with people like Elaine to have a perfect wedding. She spent the rest of the day visiting other bridal shops, determined to leave the memory of the boutique behind. But with each store she entered, disappointment followed. The dresses were beautiful, no doubt, but none of them stirred the same excitement she had felt when she saw that gown. It was as if her heart had already decided. By evening, Selina sat in her living room, scrolling through wedding blogs and boutique catalogs, but nothing satisfied her. Her fiancé noticed the frustration etched on her face and gently asked what was bothering her. She brushed it off, not wanting to burden him with the details. Yet, deep down, Selina knew she wouldn't be able to move forward without addressing what had happened. It wasn't just about the dress. It was about reclaiming the moment that had been stolen from her, about not letting prejudice dictate the course of her wedding plans. The next morning, Selina stood in front of her bedroom mirror, her reflection radiating determination. She would return to that boutique, not to argue or demand apologies, but to buy the dress she had fallen in love with. And this time she would make sure they knew exactly who they were dealing with. She selected her most elegant outfit, a tailored suit that whispered power and sophistication, and slid on her favorite heels. There would be no mistaking her today. As she stepped out the door, Selina smiled to herself, a spark of satisfaction flickering in her chest. This time, the encounter would end on her terms. Selina navigated the bustling streets of the city, determined to put the incident at the boutique behind her. The thought of that perfect dress lingered in her mind, but she had convinced herself that she could find something even better elsewhere. After all, the city was known for its luxury boutiques, each promising a unique selection of high-end wedding gowns. Yet, with each new store she visited, disappointment steadily grew. She entered one boutique after another, greeted by polished assistants who were eager to show her their collections. She browsed through racks of silk, lace, and satin, each gown more intricate than the last. But none of them resonated with her in the way that gown in the original boutique had. Some were too grand, others too simple, and none carried the same elegance and subtlety that had captivated her the day before. With every passing hour, Selena's frustration deepened. It wasn't just the difficulty of finding the perfect dress, it was the bitter memory of how she had been treated. Despite her wealth and success, she had been reduced to a stereotype, dismissed without a second thought. That truth gnawed at her, but she forced herself to keep looking, unwilling to let the insult ruin this important moment. By late afternoon, Selena found herself at yet another upscale bridal store. The staff were kind, accommodating, and brought out their finest gowns for her to try. She appreciated their efforts, but the magic was missing. Each dress she tried only made her think of the gown she had seen through the boutique's display window. No matter how hard she tried to move past it, the image lingered, flawless, elegant, and exactly what she wanted. She left the final boutique of the day with a sigh, her thoughts racing. The frustration was not just about the dress, it was about the principle. She was not the type of person to back down from a challenge, but returning to that boutique felt like surrendering to the humiliation she had faced. Could she really walk back in, knowing she had been treated like she didn't belong? Selena stopped at a nearby coffee shop, needing a moment to collect her thoughts. She ordered an espresso and sat by the window, watching the city's evening rhythm unfold. She stared into her cup, weighing her options. It would be easy to tell herself that she had tried her best and leave it at that. She could simply move on, choose another gown, and enjoy her wedding day without another thought about the incident. But deep down, Selena knew she couldn't do that. Walking away would mean allowing someone else's narrow-mindedness to dictate her choices. That wasn't who she was. She had built her career by facing obstacles head-on, by refusing to be limited by others' expectations. She wasn't going to let one arrogant boutique manager deny her the dress she wanted. The next morning, Selena woke with clarity. She would return to the boutique, not to argue, not to make a scene, but to get the dress she had set her heart on. She wasn't seeking revenge, only fairness. And this time, she would make sure the encounter ended differently. She carefully selected her outfit, opting for a tailored navy suit that exuded confidence. Her jewelry was subtle but undeniably expensive, a quiet reminder of the wealth she rarely flaunted. She wore her favorite pair of heels, the ones that made her feel invincible. Every detail of her appearance was intentional. She wanted no room for doubt about who she was and what she represented. As she drove toward the boutique, her hands steady on the wheel, Selena felt a strange sense of calm. This wasn't just about buying a wedding dress anymore. It was about reclaiming control of the situation and ensuring that she was treated with the respect she deserved. Arriving at the boutique, Selena parked her car and took a moment to collect herself. She knew there was a chance the staff would react poorly to her return. Elaine, in particular, seemed the type to double down on her assumptions rather than admit a mistake. But Selena had faced tougher challenges in her career than this, and she wasn't going to let fear stop her now. With a deep breath, Selena stepped out of her car, her heels clicking confidently against the cobblestone street. The boutique looked just as pristine as it had the day before, its display windows glittering in the morning sunlight. She straightened her posture, adjusted her bag on her shoulder, and walked toward the entrance. The moment she stepped inside, the air in the boutique seemed to shift. The faint chime of the doorbell announced her arrival, and the staff immediately looked up. Selena saw Elaine standing behind the counter, her expression souring the instant she recognized her. Elaine's thin lips pressed into a tight line. "You again?" she muttered under her breath, but her tone carried a distinct edge. She stepped out from behind the counter, folding her arms across her chest. I thought I made it clear yesterday that this boutique isn't the right place for you." Selena gave a small, composed smile. "I'm not here to argue," she said calmly. "I'm here for the dress." Elaine scoffed, her arms tightening over her chest. "You've got some nerve coming back here after the scene you caused." Selena raised an eyebrow, unfazed by Elaine's hostility. "I don't recall causing a scene. In fact, I left quite peacefully. But I couldn't stop thinking about the dress I saw yesterday. I want to see it." Elaine let out a derisive laugh, shaking her head. "Look, I don't know what you think you're trying to prove, but this place caters to a very specific clientele. And you—" She gestured dismissively toward Selena. "You're not it." Selena took a step closer, her smile never wavering. "I think you're mistaken." There was a steel edge to her voice now, subtle but unmistakable. She reached into her bag and pulled out a sleek leather business card holder. From it, she extracted a card and held it out to Elaine. Elaine glanced at the card, her smirk faltering slightly. "Selena Grant," she read aloud, her voice hesitant. "Grant Investments." Selena gave a polite nod. "That's right. I manage portfolios for some of the wealthiest individuals in the country, and I've personally backed several luxury brands, including a few you might carry in this boutique." Elaine's expression shifted from disbelief to stunned silence. The weight of Selena's words began to sink in, and her face paled as she realized the gravity of her mistake. "You see," Selena continued, her tone calm but pointed, "I could buy this entire boutique if I wanted to, but I'm not here to flaunt my wealth. I'm here because I liked that dress, and I'd like to purchase it." Elaine stood frozen, her mind clearly racing as she processed what had just happened. The arrogance and disdain she had shown the day before now seemed foolish, and she knew it. Her throat tightened with shame as the reality of her behavior crashed down on her. I didn't know," Elaine stammered, her voice barely above a whisper. "I didn't mean—" "It doesn't matter what you meant," Selena said, cutting her off gently. "What matters is how you treated me, and I hope you'll think twice before you judge someone based on appearances again." Elaine's face flushed with embarrassment, and she looked down, avoiding Selena's gaze. "I'm sorry," she murmured, genuine remorse creeping into her voice. "I didn't realize who you were." Selena gave her a kind smile, though her eyes remained firm. "That's exactly the point. You shouldn't need to know someone's status to treat them with respect." Elaine swallowed hard, nodding slowly. "You're right," she whispered. "I was wrong." Selena could see the sincerity in Elaine's eyes, and though the hurt from their previous encounter still lingered, she felt a sense of peace, knowing that her message had been received. "I'd like to see the dress now," Selena said gently, her voice returning to its usual warmth. "And if it's still available, I'd like to buy it." Elaine hesitated for a moment, then gave a small, grateful nod. "Of course," she said quietly. "Right this way." As Selena followed Elaine toward the back of the boutique, she felt a quiet sense of victory, not just because she would finally get the dress she wanted, but because she had reclaimed her dignity without compromising who she was. Elaine's heels clicked nervously against the polished floor as she guided Selena to the back of the boutique. Her earlier arrogance had melted away, leaving behind only embarrassment and guilt. She glanced over her shoulder at Selena, who walked with a composed grace that only deepened Elaine's discomfort. The irony of the situation was not lost on her. She had dismissed Selena, assuming she didn't belong among the boutique's elite clientele. And now, here Selena was, not just as any customer, but as someone with influence, power, and the means to buy out the entire store without breaking a sweat. Elaine swallowed hard, the weight of her mistake pressing heavily on her chest. They reached the display room where the gown Selina had admired still hung, radiant under the soft glow of the boutique's lights. It was exactly as Selina remembered, elegant in its simplicity, with delicate lacework cascading down the bodice and a flowing silk train that shimmered with every shift of light. Selina approached the gown slowly, her fingers brushing lightly against the fabric. "This is it," she murmured, more to herself than to Elaine. A wave of satisfaction washed over her. She had followed her instincts and returned for the dress that had spoken to her heart. Elaine cleared her throat awkwardly. "I'll prepare the fitting room for you," she offered, her voice lacking the condescension it carried the day before. Now it was laced with unease. Selina turned to face her, her gaze steady but not unkind. "There's something I'd like to discuss first." Elaine's breath hitched slightly. "Of course," she said, folding her hands in front of her, waiting for what she feared would be an outburst. But Selina's tone remained calm. "I'm not here to punish you," she began. "I didn't come back to demand an apology or make a scene. That's not who I am." Elaine blinked, confused but relieved. "Then, why did you come back?" Selina smiled softly. "Because I realized something important. I didn't want to let someone else's assumptions dictate what I do or how I feel. I wanted this dress, and I came back for it." Elaine looked down, her shame deepening. "I'm so sorry," she whispered. "I misjudged you. I treated you unfairly." Selina nodded slowly, acknowledging the apology. "I understand that people make mistakes," she said. "We all carry biases, sometimes without even realizing it. But it's what we do after those mistakes that defines us." The words hit Elaine harder than she expected. She realized that this moment wasn't just about an insult. It was a wake-up call. The assumptions she had made, the superiority she had clung to, suddenly seemed small and shallow. Selina stepped closer, her expression softening. "I could have walked away and never come back, but I believe in giving people a chance to grow, to change." Elaine felt a lump form in her throat. "I don't know how to make this right," she admitted, her voice thick with regret. Selina considered her for a moment, then gave a small, kind smile. "Start by treating everyone with the same respect, no matter who they are or what they look like. That's all I ask." Elaine's eyes welled with tears, but she quickly blinked them away. "I will," she whispered, nodding earnestly. "I promise." The weight of her remorse hung between them for a moment longer, then Selina gave her a reassuring nod. "Good. Now let's get me into that fitting room. I have a dress to try on." The fitting went smoothly. The gown fit Selina perfectly, as if it had been made just for her. As she stood in front of the full-length mirror, she saw not only the beauty of the dress, but also the strength in her own reflection. This wasn't just a wedding gown. It was a symbol of resilience, of staying true to herself in the face of prejudice. Elaine stood nearby, watching silently, her mind racing. The woman she had dismissed so casually the day before had turned out to be someone extraordinary, someone who embodied grace, dignity, and forgiveness. It was a humbling experience, one that Elaine knew she would carry with her for the rest of her life. After Selina changed back into her own clothes, Elaine carefully folded the gown and placed it in an elegant garment bag. "Thank you for giving me another chance," she said quietly as she handed it over. Selina smiled. "Everyone deserves a second chance," she said warmly. I hope you'll remember that the next time someone walks through your doors." Elaine nodded, her gratitude evident. "I will." As Selena prepared to leave, Elaine hesitated, then spoke up. "I know this might be too much to ask, but would you mind if I apologized properly? Not just for the way I treated you, but for what it represented. I want to do better." Selena looked at her thoughtfully, then gave a small nod. "I appreciate that, but there's one more thing you can do for me." Elaine tensed, ready to accept any condition. "Of course. What is it?" Selena's smile broadened. "I'd like you to come to my wedding." Elaine's eyes widened in shock. You want me to come?" "Yes," Selena said simply. "Consider it an opportunity to see things from a new perspective. I think it would be good for both of us." Elaine stood speechless for a moment, overwhelmed by the kindness in Selena's gesture. She had expected anger, maybe even retaliation, but instead she was being offered forgiveness and a chance to make things right. Tears welled in her eyes again, but this time they were tears of gratitude. "Thank you," she whispered. "I don't deserve it, but thank you." Selena gave her one last reassuring smile. "See you at the wedding, Elaine." With that, she turned and left the boutique, her heart lighter than it had been in days. She had not only reclaimed the dress she wanted, but had also turned a painful encounter into an opportunity for growth for both herself and Elaine. As Elaine stood in the doorway watching Selena leave, she felt a strange sense of peace settle over her. The woman she had judged so harshly had shown her more grace than she deserved. And in that moment, Elaine knew that this experience would change her, not just as a manager, but as a person. She closed the door softly, her heart full of determination. It was time to start anew, to see people for who they truly were, not for the assumptions she carried. And this time, she vowed, she would get it right. The journey wasn't over yet, but both Selena and Elaine had taken the first step toward something better. The wedding day had arrived, and Selena stood in front of a grand mirror in the bridal suite, her heart swelling with emotion. The gown she had fought for hugged her frame perfectly, the delicate lacework shimmering under the soft morning light. She ran her hands over the fabric, marveling at how this dress, once almost out of reach, now represented something far greater than just a wedding garment. It was a testament to standing firm, to not letting prejudice dictate her choices. Her bridal party bustled around her, making final adjustments to her veil and jewelry. Laughter and warm congratulations filled the room, and Selena allowed herself a moment to reflect on the journey that had brought her here. She had everything she could have ever dreamed of: success, love, and now the perfect wedding. But above all, she carried a deep sense of inner peace. Hours later, the guests began to arrive at the venue, a stunning estate surrounded by lush gardens. The outdoor ceremony was filled with elegance: white roses lining the aisle, golden chairs perfectly arranged, and a string quartet playing soft classical music. Selena's fiancé, dashing in his tailored tuxedo, greeted the guests with a warm smile, eagerly waiting to see his bride. Among the guests was Elaine, sitting quietly in the back row, her heart pounding as she adjusted her seat nervously. She had received Selena's invitation weeks earlier, and it had left her both stunned and humbled. For days, Elaine had debated whether or not to attend. The invitation was a gesture of forgiveness, but accepting it meant confronting the shame of her actions. Yet, something in Selena's words had resonated deeply with Elaine. She knew that if she declined the invitation, she would miss the chance to grow from this experience, to learn that people are more than the labels we place on them. And so, here she was, surrounded by unfamiliar faces, hoping that this day would mark a new chapter in her life. The ceremony began, and all eyes turned toward the entrance as Selena appeared, radiant in her gown. As she glided down the aisle, her gaze was calm and steady. Every step she took was filled with purpose. The crowd whispered in awe, but Selena's eyes were only for her fiancé, whose expression was one of pure joy. When Selena reached the altar, her fiancé took her hands, and they shared a knowing smile, a silent acknowledgement of the love and determination that had brought them to this moment. The officiant began the ceremony, speaking words of love, commitment, and partnership. Elaine, sitting quietly at the back, felt her heart swell with a strange mix of emotions: regret, gratitude, and hope. She marveled at the kindness and strength Selena had shown her, even when Elaine had given her every reason to walk away. The vows were exchanged, and the couple sealed their promises with a kiss to the sound of thunderous applause. The crowd erupted in cheers as Selena and her husband walked hand in hand down the aisle, their smiles lighting up the entire garden. As the reception began, guests mingled under a canopy of twinkling lights, enjoying fine wine and gourmet cuisine. The sound of joyful laughter filled the air, and the newlyweds moved gracefully between tables, greeting friends and family. Elaine sat quietly at her table, nursing a glass of champagne, when she noticed Selena walking toward her. For a moment, panic gripped Elaine's heart. What could Selena possibly want to say now? But as Selena approached, her expression was warm, her eyes filled with the same kindness she had shown at the boutique. "I'm glad you came," Selena said softly, her voice carrying genuine warmth. "It means a lot to me." Elaine stood up, her hand shaking slightly. "I didn't know if I deserved to be here," she admitted, her voice tinged with regret. "After everything I said, I wasn't sure you'd really want me here." Selena smiled gently. "I invited you because I believe in second chances, Elaine. We all make mistakes. What matters is how we learn from them." Elaine's eyes shimmered with unshed tears. "I'm so sorry," she whispered. "I judged you without knowing who you were, and I—" Selena placed a reassuring hand on Elaine's arm, stopping her mid-sentence. "You've already apologized," she said kindly, "and I accepted it. Today isn't about the past, it's about moving forward." Elaine nodded, swallowing hard. "Thank you," she said, her voice barely audible. "Thank you for giving me this chance." As the evening progressed, Elaine slowly began to relax. The warmth of the gathering, the joy in the air, it was impossible not to feel uplifted. She watched as Selena and her new husband shared their first dance, their love evident in every step. For the first time in a long while, Elaine felt hopeful. She knew that this moment would stay with her forever, a reminder of how easily assumptions could cloud one's judgment, and how powerful forgiveness could be. Before the night ended, Selena found a quiet moment to reflect, standing at the edge of the dance floor as her guests celebrated. Her heart felt full. The dress she wore was perfect, but it was more than just fabric and lace. It symbolized her strength, her resilience, and her refusal to let anyone's prejudice define her. Elaine approached her one last time, her face glowing with newfound peace. "Selena," she began, "I just wanted to say, this day has meant more to me than I can put into words." Selena smiled, sensing the sincerity in Elaine's words. "I'm glad," she said softly, "and I hope this is just the beginning for you." Elaine nodded. "It is, I promise." As Selena watched Elaine leave the reception, she felt a quiet sense of accomplishment. She had turned an unpleasant encounter into an opportunity for growth, for both herself and Elaine. The day had been perfect, not because of the dress or the venue, but because it was filled with love, understanding, and new beginnings. This was the start of a new chapter, not just for her marriage, but for her life. And as she stood surrounded by friends, family, and the man she loved, Selena knew that no insult, no prejudice would ever hold her back. She had written her own story, a story of resilience, grace, and forgiveness, and it was only the beginning. Thank you for watching to the end. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. There are many more exciting stories to come that are sure to hook you. Give us a like, leave a comment, and tell us where you watch our videos from. We're always interested to know. And now, don't stop. Move on to the next videos because each story carries something special. Subscribe so you don't miss a thing.